Hello everyone. Today we will talk about clean code, especially about naming of variables, constants, methods, or something else. About methods, especially about the size of any method, how many lines of code can we have in one method, and about comments, how to use the comments, when we can use it, and moreover. And let's start with little joke. How can we measure the code quality? I think it's very close to the truth because when we work with my colleagues in university, if I can listen a lot of words like what is it, who is author of this code, what's the problem code, and another, it means that my colleague works with very bad code. And of course everyone has some things about what is bad code, how we can determine it is this code bad or good, and what to do with it. And please write to the chat as usual the first question of our lecture. How do you think, what code is clean? Please write to the chat any words about clean code. Readable, great. I think it's true. I absolutely agree with it. If we can read the code and understand it, I think it's clean. Understood easily, yeah. Maybe another ideas. For example, how can we make our code readable? I think we have the loop. we want to have the clean code. That's why we make it readable. How can we make it readable? We should do it clean. Structure of code. Yes. Good names, comments, functions. Okay, let's check what famous programmers think about it. First of all, inventor of C++ language, it's Björn Stroustrup, thinks that code should be elegant and efficient. It should have minimal dependencies, for example. And performance should be close to optimal, and clean code does one thing well. I think it's a very important part of this slide. Another thinks about it from Grady Butch. It's author of Object-Oriented Analysis. It's a book about patterns, and clean code should be simple and direct. It should read like. I think he agree with you. It never obscures the designer's intent, and of course it should be readable. And little thinking about clean code. I think, and other author of books about refactoring think that writing clean code, it's a very hard work, and we need to train to do it, because when you study in the first year in university, your code not so well, and it's important to learn how to do it, to train, to repeat and repeat how to do your code clean. And it means a lot of practice. And when you will work in some company, in some developers team, you should remember that manager protects the schedule and requirements. Manager usually does not care about quality of your code. You should protect the quality of your code. And if you create bad code and submit it to your repository, it means that you are not professional, I think. And not only I think. Now let's start with meaningful names, because it's very important part of creation good code. Names of your variables or classes or constants should get the intentions of programmer. Why this variable or class exists, what does it do, and how is it used. If you look at the name of variable and you don't understand what this variable can do, and you want to add the comment, it means that the name of this variable is very bad and you should rename it. Let's see an example. We have little variable with a comment and it's some time in days. And if we want to change this variable name to good variable name, we can have a lot of variants, a lot of ways. It can be elapsed time in days, it can be days since creation, it can be days since modification. I want to show you that little word d can hide a lot of information about this variable. That's why we can use big, very long name, and if this name allows us to understand everything, we don't care about length of this name. We can do it, we can make it very long. It's a normal, because now our IDE, our instruments like I use Xcode, for example, usually, or Android Studio, and this instruments allows me to continue the name of my variable. I don't have to input this name, all part of this name. It helps me to continue the name. That's why you can use very long name of variables. It can make your code more readable. Another little example, usually I ask students to think about this code and imagine in what game we can use this code. I think it's a little hard for you because it's Java, this language. Maybe you don't know this language, that's why I will help you. But I think that you can agree that when we look at this piece of code, we don't understand, it's very hard to understand, I think, what this code can do. We have some array list, we have some 4 elements, and we don't understand everything. But if we will change the naming of this little code, we will change the name of method, the name of variables, the name of some constants, I think you can understand what is the game in this code. What is it? Do you understand? Chess or checkers, maybe. I think we have a problem because because it's a very old game in Windows, and I don't remember how it pronunciate in English. Minor or something else. Okay, let's continue. Another suggestions about naming. We should avoid misinformation. Minesweeper, yeah, thank you. We should avoid misinformation. What does it mean? Sometimes you can name your array or any collection like this style, for example, account list. But for example, in Java, we have special type list. And I'm a Java developer. I look at this name account list and I think that I will have the variable with type list. But the author of this code think that account list it's a good name for array and I will have some misunderstanding because I don't understand why I have the array with name list, because in Java we have array and we have list and it's not the same. That's why if you want to create the name for your collection, please remember that list, collection, array, and something else, it's not the same. And it's better to remember about it and change the name of your collection. Another example, here I have two lines, two long names of some variables, and I hope you can see that the difference between these two names only in word handling and storage. And when I will input the first letters of this name, like X, Y, Z, and Xcode or Android Studio will help me to finish my variable name, I can make a mistake with it just because I have the difference only in the last part of these words. That's why if you create these names, please remember that you can mistake. And my student showed me the real example of this situation when he did mistake with two long names with little difference in the end of the name in the application of one very famous bank. And it's a real situation. That's why it's important to remember about it. Then it is not necessary to use some symbols in naming of your variables, like in this little example. Because we have symbol L, we have symbol 1, we have symbols 0 and O, and they are very close to each other. They look they look like each other, and it's very easy to make a mistake. That's why please don't use these symbols in variant when you use just one symbol O or one symbol 0. It's very hard to understand where we have 0 or where we have O, and we can make mistakes. Then sometimes we can have the situation when we have the different naming system in one application just because we work in a team, and some developer name his code like get active account, some create method get active account info, and it's very hard to understand what's the difference between these two methods. Get active account and get active account info, it's the same or maybe not, and how the information which we will get with these two methods will be different. And moreover, we can have methods like get active accounts and get active account list in the same application. That's why when you work in the team, you should create the special system, the special naming scheme of your company, of your team, of your platform, and you should decide how you name the method which get you information about one object, which get you information about collection of objects, and moreover. And usually in literature, authors don't recommend to use such words as variable, class, info, data, and a, there, and something else. Because it's extra information and we don't need it. We understand that here we have the variable, here we have the class, we have color syntax coloring in our IDE. That's why it's not necessary to add these extra words. Another little example: use spoken names. Sometimes you should to tell about your code to your colleagues. When you have some problem, or maybe if you make the code review or something else, and if you will have the unspoken name, like in this slide, like DTA record, what? Jenny MD, I don't want to pronounce it, I'm afraid to call the demon. It's very hard to tell about these names. It's very hard to pronunciate these names. That's why don't use unspoken names. Another example: choose searchable names. If you have very short name of your variable, it will be very hard to find this variable in your application. Sometimes we need to find all usage of your variable, and if its name is very short, you will have the problems with it. But of course, we have exception of this rule when we talk about the variables inside the loops. Usually we use names like I, J, K, N, M, L, and another symbols. Just because we need this variable only inside this little loop, and the length of the name must match the size of its scope. If we create the static public variable or constant, which we can use in whole system, of course we should use the long name, very understandable. If we create little variable for little loop with 2 lines of code, why we need to use big name? We can use just one symbol of alphabet, and that will be enough. Then meaningful names. We can we should avoid name coding schemes. In the last a lot of years ago, developers created names like M in the start, like a prefix of name of variable, or P or another symbols, and it means something like private, something like public, or another. Because a lot of years ago, developers had not any syntax coloring in IDE. They had only Keynote, and that's all. Now we have a lot of instruments, we have a lot of colors in our code. That's why we don't need these prefixes. It's garbage in our code. It makes our code less readable. And we don't need to use something like I for interfaces or imp for implementations. But if you work with some architecture like clean architecture or something else, and in this architecture we have a little rule that when we create the implementation of some interface, we should add the prefix imp, we should do it. The rules of architecture is more important than this rule about normal no more imp. And again, about names, we need to avoid some variants, some another ways of one word, of one meaning, like manager, processor, like data and info, and something else. And when we create the name of class, it should be noun or a combination of nouns. If we create the name for method, we should use verbs and combination of verbs, because class it's something like entity or object. And method, it's an action. We do something inside our method. That's why we need to use verb as a name of method. And sometimes if we want to overload the constructor of our class, it's better to describe the arguments of this constructor in the name of this constructor. For example, in Java, sometimes we do it in this way, and it's very useful to, it's very simple to understand why we have 10 constructors in one class and what's the difference between these constructors. Another example. I don't know, can you repeat this mistake or not? But usually Russian students very like to do it. They use different words for one conception because they want to show that they know English language. It's a bad idea. We should create the code not to show our English knowledge. That's why it's better to select only one word for each concept and use it. For example, we have fetch, retrieve, get, and another verbs to get information. And it's better to use just get, not to fetch, not to retrieve, because it will be more simple to understand this code. Some of your colleagues may have the problems with English language, but we should use the English language in our code. Of course, in Russian we have, for example, 1C system. It's like a database. And in this system we can use Russian language to create the code. It's very strange, I think. I prefer the English language. That's why remember about your colleagues and that your code, it's not a place to publish your English knowledge. That's why it's better to use only one word for one conception. Then if you use some patterns inside your code, it's better to add the name of this pattern. It make your code more understandable for your colleagues. For example, like here we have account visitor or job queue or something array or builder and another. If you know that here you have the pattern, add the name of this pattern inside this code. You can use, of course, domain names. It's very important. And when you create the long name of some variables, remember that it's important not to overdo it. Because it's better to use user state instead of just state. But my super app user state, it's too much, I think. Maybe you have questions or some examples, maybe some funny examples of naming class and variables. Okay, let's continue. About methods. And again, question to you. How do you think how much lines of code should be inside one method? Please write to the chat. You can input just the number of lines. Guys, you have not any ideas? Of course, we should think about the length of our method. Some method can be very big and we should separate it, for example. Okay. If we will try to find some statistic about the dependency of number of bugs, of errors inside the method and the length of this method, we can find such elements, such examples. For example, in one paper I found that the best length of one method it's 100 or 150 lines, and we have a lot of opinions about it. And in books which I shown you in the previous lecture, I found this information. First of all, one opinion it's that in one method we should have no more than 100 or 200 lines, but I think that it's too much sometimes, because it's very hard to understand the method with hundreds of lines. Martin Fowler thinks that one method should be up to 10 lines, ideally from 1 to 5. I think it's too much. We will have a lot of little methods, micro methods, I think, and it's not so useful. Martin, it's an author of Clean Architecture, thinks that we should use methods up to 20 lines. And usually when I ask these questions with students, I will get the opinion that we should have such number of lines in one method, how much will fit on the screen. But now we have very different sizes of screen, that's why this rule does not work. And usually, especially me, I agree with Martin and try to create methods up to 20 lines. And we should remember that method must perform only one operation. One operation, it's not like only one line of code, only one command inside it. It's about one method should perform one thing, one function, maybe one something one. For example, if we work with database, one method should get information from that database and another method should filter this information. Or one method should read information, another method should write another information to method. I try to explain this little thing. And about arguments, how many parameters can we have in our method? And here it's better to create the method without parameters, but I understand that it's impossible. That's why we should think that it's the best solution when our method has only 1, 2, or 3 parameters, because if we will have more parameters, we will have the problems with testing. We should check a lot of variants. We need to add variables to our code, and usually if our method has more than 3 parameters, it will be hard to work with this method. Of course, we have a lot of exceptions of these rules, but it's better to try to create the methods with 1, 2, or 3 parameters, not more. We should not use the output arguments. I hope you understand what it is. It's when we change the parameter of our method and return it, not like return value, but we change the public storage of this parameter, the value of this variable which store in public. And argument flags, it's a very bad idea. What is argument flag? It's a variable which tell us that if I'm true, you should do this thing. If I'm false, you should do another thing. If we have the argument flag inside our function, it means that our function can make two things. But here I already told you that one function should perform only one operation. If we have the argument flag, it means that our function perform two operations, and it's a violating of single responsibility principle. It's one of solid principles. We will tell about them in the next lesson, maybe, as far as I remember, in the future. Then, if we have a list of arguments in our function and several methods use similar arguments, similar parameters, it's better to pass them in a consistent manner, in the same order. For example, if you have a lot of methods which require the parameters like name of user, last name of user, and age, it's better to send all methods these parameters in the same order: name, last name, age, name, last name, age. If you will change the order of these parameters in some method and, for example, create something like last name, first name, and age, another developer can make a mistake here just because first and second parameters have the same type, and we can't find this error in a compilation time. That's why it's very simple to create this mistake and send the last name like first name and the first name like last name. That's why if your several methods use the same group of parameters, it's better to pass them in the same order. If you pass some parameters inside your method, you should use all of them. It's very bad idea to pass something inside the method and don't use it. You just create a lot new variables and make your code less readable, because when we have a lot of variables, it's very hard to remember about them, and you can create bad code in this way. And don't use method parameters as work variable. Work variable means, like in this little example in the bottom of my slide, when we use the parameter of our function for storage new data. Like here we have input val like parameter, and I change this value inside my method. It's a very bad idea, just because when I if I want to change this method and use the value of this parameter in the end of method, and I want to use the first value of this parameter like we have in the first line of this method, I will have the problem because I already changed this value. I have not any first value now, and I need to rewrite this method to solve this problem. Sometimes we can document some parameter assumptions when we create the list of parameters of our method. Some languages allows us to add the names of parameters, and in this name we can document some requirements to these parameters. And very important to remember that when we create the new method, we must remember that we should not use or we should not create some side effect in a method. Some side effect means the behavior of a method, some commands inside the method which we don't wait. we yes, don't wait, which we don't expect from this method. Here we have a code example with the method check password, and inside this method we have the side effect behavior which we don't expect. Please read this code very attentively and write to the chat where we have the side effect in this method. Session init. Yes, you are absolutely right. Sorry, my neighbors wants to cut their grass. Yes, session init. You're absolutely right. Here we have the method check password. It means that we expect the behavior of checking password. And in the first, second, and another lines, we have this functionality. But we don't expect the initialization of session because we have not any information about it in the name of our method. It's a side effect of methods, and it can be the source of a lot of problems because another developers will not expect this behavior. So don't create such methods. Then, when you create the methods, you need to separate commands and requests. Commands mean that we just create method to do something and we don't need the result from this method. It's just like procedure. We don't need any result. And requests means that we ask something and we need the result of this method. And it's better to separate these type of methods from each other because we need a result or we don't need the result, and the method must do something or answer some question. If we separate them, we will make our code more understandable. If we work with code which can return us some exceptions, it's better to use exception system, not error code, because error code we need to check, we need to add a lot of code to work with it. It's better to work with exceptions. If we use the commands like try catch, in literature we have the recommendation that it's better to isolate this code in special methods and just create little methods and move this code, this try catch to these little methods. And it's better to handle the errors like one operation, for example, create new methods to it and move this code to this method. And the last part of today good code examples, it's comments. Please write to the chat, do you use the comments in your code? You can send something like plus or minus if you want. Only when needed, when working alone, no. You create comments for your colleagues. Okay, I understand. If necessary. Okay, thank you guys. Now usually in internet, in some papers, in books, in some forums, we have the opinion that programmers cannot normally support comments. Well, we are very lazy. We try to support our code, but we usually forget to support comments. We need to change them if we change the code, but we are lazy. That's why we can have the situation when we have another code but old comments, and they don't match, and it can be the source of problem. For example, here I have the function, or I have the method load current city with comment saving current city, just because the author of this code forget to change the comment. It means that when I work with this code, I can't understand what this function does. That's why I need to open this function, I need to read it, I need to spend a lot of time. And the source of this problem, of this time spending, it's an incorrect comment. That's why usually all developers recommend not to use comments at all. But of course we have exceptions, and we have the situations when we need to use the comments. And again, the comments, it's a sign of failure. It means that you have bad code or you have bad naming, and it's better to change this naming. That's why sometimes it's better not to use the comments. And little rule, if I see the code that requires comments, it's better to rewrite it. But sometimes we have some little tricks in our code, and we can't to rewrite them. We will have the same situation after rewriting. And in this situation, we can use the comments. And about the good examples of comments. First of all, it's legal comments. It's about privacy, maybe about the rules of your code, about some legal situations. Then we can use the comments when we can't to explain what we do in this code in another way. For example, when we work with regular expression. I think regular expression, it's a thing which very hard to read and understand. And of course, I can read this regular expression, but it takes a lot of time. That's why it's better to just add the little comment what this regular expression does, what pattern it matched. Then another good comment example, it's when we add the intent of developer for some piece of code or method or something else. Why, for example, we use this method of attempt race condition or something else. Another example, sometimes when we use a lot of very specific code, like a regular expression, here we just can add little comments and make our code more readable. Because here with assert command, we can't to change it. We just can create a lot of little methods with only one command, but I think it's a stupid idea. In this situation, it's better to just add the comments. Another example, when we use comment to add some alert, because here we have the code which will work a lot of time. That's why it's better not to run this and we can run it only in specific situation. That's why we have this code, this comment example. Then, of course, we can use comment like to do. It's very good idea how not to forget to add something to your program. And now IDE can color these to do comments in another color. And when we try to commit to repository the code with to do comments, we will get alert that we have to do comments, or maybe we should add some code to it or something else. Sometimes we can create the comment to add some important information about this code. Maybe it's a little trick or something else, like in this example. And about bad comments. If you if you look at your code and you understand that you can just rename your variables and it will make your code more readable and is not necessary to add the comment, it's better to change the names, maybe create new methods or something else. And here I have the example of bad comments. For example, here, a lot of examples in my speech. I think here we have the example when it's more easier to read the code than to understand the comment, because it's excess comment is not necessary to use it here. Another example, it's a noise comment. It means that our method very simple, is not necessary to add this comment. Of course, exception when we try to create documentation to our methods. In this situation, of course, we need to create a lot of noise comments just because we need to create the documentation. Then another example of bad code. We have the only one lines of code with comment. And I already told you that sometimes we are too lazy to change the comments. That's why here we can just rewrite this line of code with 3 lines in the second part of slide. And these 3 lines of code don't require the comment. These lines are very understandable. That's why if we can rewrite code to make it more readable, to make it more understandable, it's better to rewrite it, not to add the comment. Another examples, it's positioning comments. In some languages we have something like this, but exception of this rule, it's for example Xcode. When we create a special comment like this, like action, but with another word, we named it mark, we create special separators in our code, and Xcode highlight these separators and it makes our code more beautiful. This is an exception of this rule. Then please don't create the comments behind the closing brackets, because I already read this code, I already spent some time to understand it, and only after that I see this comment. I think it's sad sometimes. Then it's not necessary to create the comment to save information or links to the authors of code. We have this information in Git. It's not necessary to repeat it in code. Bad idea when we create comments like commented code. We have this code in Git history. It's not necessary to create this garbage in your application. And that's all about good code for today. In 12:25 we will continue with bad code examples. Today it's complexity of, oh my god, I forgot the word in English. Yes, of course. Please ask.